In 1798, the world was at war, a struggle for power between two great empires, France and Britain. Amid this chaos, one ambitious young general dreamed of glory beyond Europe, Napoleon Bonaparte. France was still healing from its revolution. Its armies had conquered Italy, but its leaders feared Britain's naval power. So, a bold plan was born to strike the British Empire not in Europe, but in Egypt. Napoleon saw Egypt as more than a battlefield, a gateway to the east, to India, and to eternal fame. He called it the key to the world. But this was not just a military expedition. Alongside 40,000 soldiers, Napoleon brought 160 scientists, artists, and engineers to document, study, and shape the future of knowledge. As the French fleet sailed from Toulon towards Alexandria, no one knew they were heading not only for conquest, but for one of history's greatest lessons in ambition, failure, and destiny. This was Napoleon in Egypt. 1798, the Mediterranean Sea trembled under the shadow of a new conqueror. Napoleon Bonaparte had risen from the ashes of the French Revolution, ready to challenge empires. Europe was in chaos. Monarchs feared the revolution's fire spreading to their thrones. But Napoleon saw beyond. He dreamed of conquering the East. His target was Egypt, the land of pharaohs, knowledge, and ancient power. Controlling it meant controlling the trade routes between Europe and Asia. For Napoleon, Egypt was not just a land to conquer. It was a gateway to history and destiny. As his fleet set sail from France, few realized this journey would become one of the most ambitious and mysterious campaigns in world history. Napoleon's fleet reached the coast of Alexandria in the burning heat of July 1798. As the French army stepped onto the sands, history itself seemed to hold its breath. The locals watched in disbelief, men from a distant land marching beneath the French tricolor. For them, it was the return of an ancient prophecy, the foreign ruler from the sea. But Egypt was not empty. The Mamluks, fierce horsemen of the Nile, stood ready to defend their home. The Battle of the Pyramids began. The clash of muskets and sabers echoed through the desert. Napoleon's army, disciplined and modern, crushed the Mamluks with ruthless precision. By nightfall, the sands of Giza were silent. Napoleon had won Egypt, or so he thought. Napoleon knew that guns alone could not rule Egypt, so he turned to diplomacy and deception. He declared himself a friend of Islam, quoting the Quran in public speeches. He ordered his men to respect mosques and customs, but his eyes were always on control. Behind his charm lay strategy. Napoleon wanted Egypt's loyalty, not its love. He founded the Institute of Egypt, bringing together French scientists, artists, and engineers to study the ancient land. It was the birth of modern Egyptology. While Napoleon ruled on land, danger sailed from the sea. The British Navy, under Admiral Horatio Nelson, hunted the French fleet. The Battle of the Nile was swift and merciless. French ships exploded under British fire. The Mediterranean turned into a sea of flames. Napoleon was now trapped, cut off from France, surrounded by enemies. Napoleon's campaign failed militarily, but it awakened Europe's fascination with the East. It opened doors to science, art, and archaeology. And for Napoleon, Egypt was not an end. It was the beginning of his destiny as Emperor of France. Empires rise and fall, but dreams like Napoleon's never fade. They just wait for the next man to chase them again. Napoleon tried to rule Egypt through diplomacy, religion, and hope, but rebellion and famine grew. His dream of reaching India faded. Tipu Sultan fell in Mysore, and Napoleon was trapped, his empire crumbling in sand. Tipu Sultan's fall shattered Napoleon's eastern dream. The message was clear: no ally remained beyond the desert. In Cairo, hunger spread, soldiers deserted, and the sands whispered the end of a dream. In 1799, Napoleon marched into Syria to crush Ottoman resistance. Gaza, Jaffa, Acre, each city resisted with blood and steel. In Jaffa, after victory, Napoleon ordered thousands of prisoners executed, a stain history never washed away. Then came the plague, a curse no cannon could fight. His soldiers rotted in hospitals, and fear gripped every heart. The siege of Acre broke his spirit. The walls stood, his men fell, and the dream bled out under the Syrian sun. Defeated in Syria, Napoleon returned to Egypt. At Abu Qir, he won one final victory, but it was hollow. Egypt burned with rebellion, the British ruled the seas, and France forgot its stranded sons. One night, under silence and stars, Napoleon fled Egypt, leaving his army to fate. In France, destiny awaited. Napoleon crowned himself ruler, while Egypt mourned the lost army. By 1801, British and Ottoman flags flew over Cairo. The French surrendered, the sands swallowed an empire. Decades later, others built the Suez Canal, the bridge Napoleon once dreamed to carve. Napoleon's Egyptian campaign was more than a war. It was a dream of empire, buried in sand and time. My curious fellows, history remembers victories, but true lessons lie in defeat.